Well, many thanks for joining us. This is QTV News with me, Ansumana Iswenyasi. First, the main local, international and sports news headlines. Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure Thursday launched the NAFA program of cash transfers intended to benefit 83,000 households in the regions to curb the social and economic impact of COVID-19. It's exactly 1 year since the death of Gambia's first president, Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. We take a look at the legacy of a man who ruled the Gambia as Prime Minister and President for almost 30 years. Following government's closure of schools amidst the coronavirus pandemic, it appears school children are more engaged in petty trading than staying at home. A fire outbreak at Hamza Military Barracks has destroyed the house of a private soldier, leaving it in ruins. In international news, a 25-year-old model of South Sudanese descent is celebrated as one of the darkest women on earth because of the tone of her dark skin color. Also, while the world's attention is focused on the coronavirus pandemic, we take a look at how Africa still faces an ancient yet extremely dangerous disease, malaria. In sports news, the NBA postponed Wednesday's 3 playoff games after the Milwaukee Bucks called off their fixture in protest at the shooting of an unarmed black man, Jacob Blake. Other sports did likewise. And the Senegalese-born Pape Cheikh Diop has made a U-turn and now wants to play for the Teranga Lions of Senegal, having opted to play for Spain 2 years ago. Well, for more on this and other stories coming up, do stay tuned. And now the local news in detail. Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure on Thursday launched the NAFA program of cash transfers intended to complement ongoing government efforts to curb the social and economic impact of COVID-19. Well, the program is intended to benefit 83,000 households in the regions. Alusise reports.
Last month, through the National Nutrition Agency, NANA, the government announced a $10 million NAFA quick package aimed at mitigating the social and economic impact of COVID-19 on the population through a cash transfer of $1,500 per month for 4 months to reach beneficiary households in the Lower River, Central River, Upper River, North Bank and Fonyi in the West Coast region. Under this program, there will be a cash transfer targeting 83,000 poor households in 30 districts in the country. The $10 million package is part of the 5-year $31 million social safety net project, with the World Bank contributing $30 million, while the Gambia government gives the remainder. In a virtual launch statement on behalf of President Barrow, the Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure says the Gambia, like many developing countries, has registered much progress in reducing poverty and creating the enabling environment for improving the lives of its people. In 2015, the country was ranked 173 out of 188 countries in the UNDP Human Development Index report, and the poverty rate remains high in the country, with 48% of the population living below the poverty line, $1.25 a day, and 69.5% of the rural population, still considered poor, are also battling with food insecurity. National statistics have indicated that huge disparities exist within the Gambia's population in accessing basic social protection services, coupled with social, cultural, economic, and environmental risks that exacerbate this situation, and thus most affected are the poor and vulnerable people.
In recent times, the Gambia has adopted a systemic approach to strengthening social protection and working towards the establishment of an integrated and equitable social protection system in the country to better address the needs of the poor and vulnerable people. As a result, social protection issues have taken a center stage in our national and social policy dialogues in the Gambia. The government of the Gambia has also demonstrated staunch commitment to make social protection issues a national priority by coming up with a national social protection policy as envisaged in the National Development Plan 2018 to 2021.
VP Toure says the initiative is apolitical and is meant to respond to the needs of the people, irrespective of political affiliation.
There is nothing like politics in it. Of course, you cannot stop people from thinking the way they are thinking. He is responsible, whether they are with him or not. It is his duty because he's leading the Gambia. He's the one at the moment who is the primary duty bearer and head of government in terms of leading this country.
Modiche Yasin Fall, Executive Director of the National Nutrition Agency, which has responsibility for delivering the project, described the launch as a milestone. The package also includes behavioral change and activities to improve households' wealth, nutrition, early childhood development, adolescence, parenting and family planning in order to prevent gender-based violence. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
It's exactly 1 year since the death of Gambia's first president, Sadauda Kairaba Jawara. Jawara served the Gambia as Prime Minister from independence in 1965 to 1970, and the former veterinary surgeon turned politician ruled the Gambia as Prime Minister and the President for almost 30 years. Bob Garcia tells us more.
The father of our nation and one of the pioneering members of the Organization for African Union, now the African Union, Sadauda's place is secured in the history books for eternity as being among those who fought for Gambia's independence and ushering the country into democracy and rule of law. Many describe him as a true Pan-Africanist, a Democrat, a champion of the rule of law and respect for human rights, a man who sacrificed his noble job to lead the People's Progressive Party, PPP, before eventually leading the country to independence. It was because of his foresight and dedication to nation building that Gambia Ports Authority, Social Security, Gamtel, Gambia Produce Marketing Board, GPMB, among others, were established. Born in 1924 to Almami Jawara and Mama Fati in the village of Barajali, Jawara led the Gambia until July 1994, when his rule was brought to an end by a military coup led by Lieutenant Yaya Jammeh. Jawara was the last living Gambian to have been given a knighthood. His legacy will stand the test of time. Continue to rest well, Father of our nation. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
Following government's closure of schools amidst the coronavirus pandemic, it appears school children are more engaged in petty trading than staying at home. Our reporter Jennifer Sonko spoke with Lamin K. Sedi from the Child Protection Alliance about the issue, and this is her report.
As part of the preventive measures to slow the spread of the coronavirus, the government closed schools across the country. Since then, we have noticed an increase in the number of children on highways, markets and other public areas engaging in petty trading, defeating the purpose of schools closure and children staying at home. The Inspector General of Police issued a press release a few weeks ago, advising parents to ensure that children stay at home and do not be loitering or selling various stuffs at roadsides and markets. Parents or guardians who are found negligent will be held accountable for failure to protect children from coronavirus and related dangers, the police said. By the look of things, it appears that the words in that press release are not being enforced or adhered to, judging by the number of children on the streets, some even selling face masks. Lamin K. Sedi from the Child Protection Alliance says the public has to understand that it is not the mandate of the Child Protection Alliance to enforce laws, but they work towards good laws but be put in place and raise awareness.
The lack of implementation of laws squarely lies with the government. So government has to take up its responsibility. We've been calling on the government, all throughout to make sure that best practices are put in place to ensure that children are protected. But it seems that's not very much working. Again, also parents takes greater responsibility of this whole thing. We are supposed to be the number one custodians of our children, and but a lot of parents have failed in their responsibilities, and they have neglected children in many given circumstances. So the best that the government could do is to put up measures by administrative, legislative measures to ensure that, and of course community empowerment to make sure that our children are protected.
Sedi called on government to broaden their social protection programs.
We know the Gambia have a social protection policy and programs. We know in the rural communities they're currently doing what they call direct cash transfer. This has to be strengthened to be able to reach a wider constituent, because we know a good number of Gambians are poor. So the social protection programs need to be broadened, need to be enriched to be able to support the most vulnerable, so that when those children are found on the roads, on the streets, and they are apprehended, or at least their parents can be invited, and legal action can be taken against them.
According to Sedi, investigations are still ongoing on the Penny Appeal saga, and some of the children have reunited with their families and are being monitored by the Department of Social Welfare. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Bosonko.
A fire yesterday evening at a military barracks left the house of a private soldier in ruins. There were no injuries and the cause of the fire remains a mystery to the residents, including the victims. Maud Lamin Choi reports.
This is the extent of the destruction to the house of a soldier at Hamza Barracks, a military residence in Banjul. And now what can be seen in this footage are various burnt items, including a freezer, a bed, military uniforms and gear, and other household materials belonging to this private, who has lost everything to the fire except the clothes he has on.
I can say there is a lot. It's a lot of material that I have lost here, because you can see all my bed, cupboards, fridge, everything is gone right now.
Thanks to the rescue efforts of the neighbors and the intervention of the fire rescue services, the fire was contained and could not spread to other nearby houses. Both responses may appear to have been late when one surveys the extent of the damage done.
Yeah, really, it really moves me. But still now, I can take the courage. I know it's God's will.
Very sad, feel very sad on it, Yeah. It's just that, I don't have any power, any power to assist, to help him, but I feel very sad. It's like, it's my own incident.
Among what the fire reportedly consumed was $5,000, which according to Abdulaziz Sar, the fire victim, was from a lone Mentasal family needs. Abdulaziz does not only appear crestfallen, but also looks strong in the belief that what has happened is God's decision.
For me, I'm only expecting God's will. Anything that God decides, I will take it into good faith. If at all there is any help here, still now I appreciate it. But right now, I put my hope on God.
Though the cause of the fire outbreak remains a mystery to the victim, speculation is that an electrical fault might have been the cause. Whether the matter will be investigated remains uncertain, but what is now evident is that the aftermath of this incident has already been devastating for this young soldier, whose house is now in ruins. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, QTV News.
And from that report, we take a short commercial break, but when we come back, the news continues with international and sports news. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. In international news, a 25-year-old model of South Sudanese descent has taken pride and found fame with the tone of her dark skin color. Nyakim Gatwich is now celebrated as one of the darkest women on earth and is now enjoying the kind of career and profile many women dream about. Marie-Louise N. Sanyang tells us more.
Nyakim Gamwek was born in Gambela in Ethiopia after her parents fled the war in South Sudan and faced a difficult life. She spent her childhood in a refugee camp in Kenya before her family moved to the USA when she was 14. Nyakim wanted to give up on her dream of becoming a model because of the discrimination she faced regarding her skin color. As she narrates, children at school always trolled her for being too dark, saying, "You don't take shower. That is why your skin is dirty. Smile so we can see you." These comments totally discouraged her when she was growing up. On several occasions, she cried herself to sleep, which led her to wanting to bleach her skin at some point, as many had done before her. She then learned to stay strong and love herself as she embarked on her modeling career after taking part in a fashion show and later appeared in promotional posters in 2017 film Jigsaw. Her stunning appearance made her stand out from the crowd when modeling, but the road to fame wasn't easy. She faced many unpleasant situations, including one she has recounted many times when an Uber driver asked her, "If you were given $10,000, would you bleach your skin?" She responded saying, Even if being lighter would make my life easier, I'd rather take the hard road. She added, "Why on earth would I even bleach this beautiful melanin God blesses me with?" When she was given the nickname, the Queen of Dark, she accepted it with pride, saying, "Black isn't a color of sadness, death, or evil, so I am the Dark Queen who brings light and love to those around me." She now has 804,000 followers on Instagram. Her courage has inspired many women around the world to accept their uniqueness and to love and respect themselves, because every woman is beautiful in her own way. The color of your skin should not stop you from breaking barriers. Skin bleaching is a multi-million-dollar industry in Africa, the continent with the world's darkest skinned people. In June of this year, the Gambian government announced it was to repeal the ban on the sale of skin bleaching products, as the ban was an infringement on the rights of those who wish to bleach. Perhaps Nyakim's success and celebration of her beauty and that of Lupita Nyong'o might even inspire the many young women here in the Gambia given to bleaching that they should instead embrace their dark skin as a sign of beauty. Marie-Louise Ensanyang for Qtv News.
While the world's attention is focused on the coronavirus pandemic, Africa still faces an ancient yet extremely dangerous disease, malaria, which is transmitted by mosquito bite. Loli M. Kamara tells us more.
The start of the rainy season is the time of the year when we experience a significant rise in malaria cases. However, this year, the focus has been shifted to the much talked about coronavirus disease. Health experts appear to be concentrating more on the pandemic than malaria, when actually malaria, an instant killer disease, has been claiming more lives faster than the coronavirus. Malaria parasites are spread to people through the bites of infected female Anopheles mosquitoes called malaria vectors. WHO statistics shows that Africa is still faced with problems of malaria, and in 2018 reports show that malaria affected 228 million people with 405,000 victims. On the African continent alone, data shows 213 million cases, accounting for almost 93% of the global figure, and 403,000 dead, compared with the statistic provided for coronavirus, which affected 480,000 and 11,000 victims. It is obvious that malaria has not disappeared, and also research shows that cases are decreasing, but health experts should not ignore it. Just as the coronavirus hinders the economy, so too does malaria in countries where it is widespread, taking into account the heavy cost for prevention and treatment, among others. In the case of preventing the malaria transmission, the WHO recommends protection for all people at risk by using insecticide-treated mosquito nets and also using indoor visual spraying. Statistics from the World Health Organization show that all of those affected by the malaria epidemic, children under 5 years, are the most vulnerable, accounting for 67% of malaria cases worldwide. The number of malaria-reported cases in the Gambia has been going down in recent years. In 2014, over 166,000 malaria cases were recorded, with 170 deaths. The WHO's 2018 World Malaria Report showed a dramatic drop of reported malaria cases and deaths in the Gambia. Over 78,000 suffered from the disease, out of which 54 people died from it in 2017. In spite of such improvements, there is no room for complacency if we want to see malaria eradicated from our country and our continent. For Qtv News, Loli M. Kamara.
And we take another short commercial break, but news continues with sports news when we return. Welcome back, and over now to sports. The NBA postponed Wednesday's 3 playoff games after the Milwaukee Bucks called off their fixture in protest at the shooting of an unarmed black man, Jacob Blake. As the calls for justice for victims of police brutality for black people continue, basketball's WNBA and football's MLS have also postponed some fixtures. Mahmoud Gajaga has more details.
In a video footage that has gone viral, Blake, a black man, was shot 7 times in the back by police on Sunday in Kenosha, Wisconsin, near Milwaukee. There have been widespread protests. In baseball, 3 MLB games were called off after teams decided not to play, and 5 MLS matches have been postponed. Tennis player Naomi Osaka pulled out of the WTA match on Thursday. She tweeted that she would no longer play her semi-final in the Western and Southern Open in New York, saying that, "As a black woman, I feel as much though there are much more important matters at hand that need immediate attention rather than watching me play tennis." Although Osaka uses her Japanese mother's surname, her father is black and from Haiti. The U.S. Tennis Association, ATP, and the WTA subsequently announced it was pausing play at the Western and Southern Open on Thursday and would resume on Friday, adding that tennis is collectively taking a stance against racial inequality and social justice. After calling off their game against the Orlando Magic, the Bucks players released a statement that said, "Despite the overwhelming plea for change, there has been no action, so our focus today cannot be on basketball. When we take to the court and represent Milwaukee and Wisconsin, we are expected to play at a high level, give maximum effort, and hold each other accountable. We hold ourselves to that standard, and in this moment, we are demanding the same from our lawmakers and law enforcement. We are calling for justice for Jacob Blake and demand the officers be held accountable." The Houston Rockets game against the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Los Angeles Lakers matchup with the Portland Trail Blazers were also postponed and will be rescheduled. It has been reported that the NBA players in the bubble will meet at 16 BST to discuss how to proceed with the playoffs. The WNBA postponed all 3 games due to take place in the bubble in Bradenton, Florida on Wednesday. The players linked arms on court with a group wearing T-shirts that spell out Blake's name and also 7 holes in them representing how many times he was shot by police. On a night when Satu Sabally recorded the 3rd triple-double of our rookie WNBA season, a career-high 28-point outburst in the Dallas Wings' 96-92 loss to the Las Vegas A's, she didn't feel like celebrating. In Sabally's press conference following the game, the number 2 overall pick to use her platform to call attention to Blake's recent shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the continued fight against racial justice and police brutality. "I just want to say, I won't be answering any questions because we need justice for Jacob Blake, who has been shot 7 times in the back," said Sabally. "And at this moment, we can't enjoy any wins. We can't enjoy any losses. There is a lot of things happening in this country, and we need to put the focus on that." It remains to be seen how long the boycotts across various sports in the US will last, and could it amplify the calls for racial justice. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News.
Senegal-born Pape Cheikh Diop has made a U-turn and now wants to play for the Teranga Lions of Senegal, having opted to play for Spain 2 years ago. The 23-year-old Senegalese changed his mind after 2 years without being called to the Spanish national side. Alaji Ahmad Cham reports.
Pape Cheikh Diop arrived in Spain aged 12 and played for the Spanish national under-21 side. Diop, who holds a Spanish passport, now has a change of heart and wants to play for his country of birth, Senegal. Pape said he had no regrets about previously choosing Spain. In an interview with L'Equipe, he said, "I spoke to my family. The first time my mom thought I was too young to play for Senegal. Senegal is my country, my place of birth, and now I want to play for Senegal." He also stated he is yet to talk to the national team coach Aliou Cissé. At the moment, the team is doing well, and if Diop is to be selected, he needs to put in a string of good performances. As a defensive midfield player, he faced stiff competition from the likes of Idrissa Gana Gueye of PSG and Pape Badou Ndiaye of Trabzonspor. Diop is contracted to Champions League semi-finalist Lyon and loaned to Lyon. In 2019-2020 season, he played 16 matches for Celta Vigo in La Liga. In other developments, Kaba Sonko of Superstar Academy has joined the Israeli First Division side Maccabi Haifa and will be playing for the team's under-23 side in the UEFA Champions League 2020-2021 season. Keba Sise, who last played for the Scorpions during the reigns of coach Sangdong and lost his place on the team, is also on the move, going from Sreska on loan to Helsingborg. Sise, an experienced right back who can also play as a centre back, played for Djurgården, Dalkok FF in Sweden and Lech Poznan in Poland. Araji Amatcham, QTV.
And before we end this bulletin of the news, here's a recap for me on headlines. Vice President Dr. Aïssatou Touré Thursday launched the NAFA program of cash transfers intended to benefit 83,000 households in the regions to curb the social and economic impact of COVID-19. It's exactly 1 year since the death of Gambia's first president, Sadauda Kairaba Jawara. We take a look at the legacy of a man who ruled the Gambia as Prime Minister and President for almost 30 years. Following government's closure of schools amidst the coronavirus pandemic, it appears school children are more engaged in petty trading than staying at home. A fire outbreak at Hamza Military Barracks has destroyed the house of a private soldier, leaving it in ruins. In international news, a 25-year-old model of South Sudanese descent is celebrated as one of the darkest women on earth because of the tone of her dark skin color. Also, while the world's attention is focused on the coronavirus pandemic, we take a look at how Africa still faces an ancient yet extremely dangerous disease, malaria. In sports news, the NBA postponed Wednesday's 3 playoff games after the Milwaukee Bucks called off their fixture in protest at the shooting of an unarmed black man, Jacob Blake. Other sports did likewise. And the Senegalese-born Pape Cheikh Diop has made a U-turn and now wants to play for the Teranga Lions of Senegal, having opted to play for Spain 2 years ago. Well, I'm afraid that's all about it, but do join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Bye for now.